Update. Am I wrong for walking out on a double date my friend set up with him, his girlfriend, and a girl I had already rejected before? Original post. Cast, me 25 male, Joe 26 male, and Jane 24 female. To give you a little background to this situation, I met Jane through Joe's girlfriend at her birthday party last year. At first, Jane was fun to talk to, but not even an hour later, Jane was really into me and tried really badly to hit on me during the party, which pretty much ruined my time there, as the feeling was not mutual in the slightest bit. Also at the time, I was already with someone. So, the first impression I got from Jane was that she was clingy, annoying, and just wouldn't stop bothering me. Unfortunately for me, she became part of my larger friend group, because she is part of Joe's girlfriend's friend group, and because me and Joe hang out a lot, and I am also friends with his girlfriend, I pretty much run into her at minimum twice a month. So first time Jane asked me out was a month after that party. I informed her I was with someone and not interested. She tried again 2 months later when I broke up with my then girlfriend. Again I declined her advances and told her I was not interested. I got into a new relationship not long after, but unfortunately she and I broke up about 2 months ago. Since then, as you might have anticipated, Jane has asked me out again. I said no again. Well, that brings us to this week. Everything has been opening up here, and Joe had been trying to fix me up with a friend of his girlfriend, and would not tell me who. He is well aware of me having rejected Jane multiple times, and the fact I am not interested in her. He knows this in detail. After a lot of what he calls convincing and I call whining, as I had no interest in dating anytime soon, I relented and decided to agree to this double date idea of his. We agree on meeting at Joe's apartment, and lo and behold, Joe, his girlfriend, and Jane are occupying the dinner table, obviously intending for my date to be Jane. I honestly just got so goddamn angry that I couldn't even get a single word out, turned around and left. I have been bombarded with texts and calls about how much of a douche I am, and how terribly I hurt Jane and so on. And I am just like, I literally rejected her like 3 times. I am not interested in her, you knew that. Your girlfriend knew that. Our entire friend group even has a running joke about obsessive Jane for Pete's sake, so literally everyone knows it. So, am I the idiot? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the idiot, but your friend obviously is. Setting someone up with someone who rejected that person is cruel. Not the fact that you turned around. I would honestly done the same. Jane is just as much the idiot as the rest. She knew what was up. Agree, Jane isn't some innocent bystander here. She's been rejected a half dozen times at the time, but can't take no for an answer. It's beyond harassment at this point. Not wrong. You've made your feelings more than clear to Jane and your friend as well. You had every right to leave, as you had already rejected her 3 times, and still, she set herself up for rejection number 4. You're not responsible for her hurt feelings at this point. Your friend should have known better than to blindside you with a date with someone he knows full well you have zero interest in. Though if I might venture a guess, I'd say that the double date was 100% Jane's and your friend's girlfriend's idea, and your friend most likely just got pressured into convincing you to come. Even so, he is one of my best friends. He shouldn't be screwing me over like that. Even if it was 100% their idea, I still blame Joe the most. I agree with you 100%. Regardless if he got pressured into it or not, as your friend, he should absolutely have let you know what the girls were planning so that you could have avoided the whole situation. You have every right to be upset. And now for the update. It has been a little under 2 months, and I have received quite a few requests to make an update over the past 9 or so weeks. At first I was going to make one a week or 3 ago, but I decided against it, and instead chose to wait till I had some proper updates. But well, here goes. It turns out that some of the more pessimistic of you were right. Jane was being obsessive and stalkerish, and it sort of all came tumbling down on her at that point. A week or so after I made my post, she decided to message me. Well, it came down to her not understanding why I was showing interest in her, and then refused to date her. I never showed interest in her beyond basic friendliness. A wall of text dedicated to thrashing my previous relationships and calling them all sorts of names. Specifically pointing out how I dated the wrong girls, and a weird rant about how everyone agreed that me and her were meant to be, which just isn't the case. Like I said in my previous post, there is a running joke in our friend group about how weird she is. Now, you might think this is something that can be expected, something that just happens, an outlet for her of sorts. Except she sent it from the wrong account. See, I had become internet friends with a person in the past month or 2. Me and her would game together, chat from time to time. You know, the usual organic internet friend situation. And the messages concerning our date were sent from this account. Turns out she had literally used this alias to infiltrate my internet friend group and keep tabs on me of sorts. Obviously, this freaked me the F out. I took screenshots of what she had sent me, and afterwards blocked all accounts that I knew now she was using. I followed that up by sharing everything in our friend Discord and in our friend WhatsApp group, so everyone could see, which resulted in her being kicked from both. I later got a call from Joe full-on apologetic, telling me he had no idea and he knew he shouldn't have done it, but that his girlfriend was being pressured by Jane. Turned out, Jane had literally been complaining to her for months to arrange something like this, and she finally caved. Again, creepy stuff. I told him that I needed some time, as he really screwed me over big time, and I didn't trust him anymore as a result. While Jane has been shunned by all friends, she still contacted me twice. Once to apologize, which quickly turned into weird nonsense where she started talking about us. She seems convinced there is an us, and I am interested. And another time just to curse at me, both from random accounts. I am not sure where to go from here, and I am still pretty shook up. Whoa, she's definitely a wacko dude. Definitely dodged a massive bullet. Keep all the screenshots, and if required, file a restraining order if it escalates. I am keeping all stuff she sends just to be sure. Make sure you made everyone you know aware of her stalking you. She could spread false claims against you, cause she definitely sounds like an absolute psycho. All mutual friends and some other people know. OP, I've been in that situation. You need to document it with police. When the stalker has created an imaginary relationship like that, they will escalate. The cops will likely not do anything, but documenting makes it easier to get a restraining order. Yep, there are the stalkers that want a relationship. Stalkers that think they deserve a relationship, and those that believe you are already in a relationship. All three are dangerous, but the level of risk and likelihood of physical attack increases with each one. It is a terrifying thing to discover that your new job involves working with your stalker's grandfather, by him asking if the two of you have set a date yet. There was a lot to this one, and it lasted years. So as briefly as possible, I took someone to a prom as a friend. I was alerted by an actual friend that she was making up graphic stories at school. We had been, as far as I knew, friends for a while. I was absolutely terrified and panicked about what this might do to my reputation. We were only a grade apart, but almost 3 years in age difference. I was bullied at my previous schools, and this was the first school I ever felt happy in. I stopped talking with her and reported her tales to school admin. This was back in the days, so she just got a talking to about it. No severe trouble, so I thought things were done. Until I heard from another of her friends that we were apparently still dating, and the school was trying to keep us apart. It ended up that for the previous 2 years, she had been telling her friends that we were in a secret relationship. We had never been, and the admin dealt with it further. I continued hearing things, but more or less, the school knew it was nonsense. I graduated and she stayed. 2 years later, I was starting a grocery store job at the local grocery store, and I had settled in after the first week, when one of the guys I recognized as a long-term bagger came up to my line and simply asked if the two of us had set a date yet. Me being single, thought that he had mistaken me, but no, he knew my full name. In trying to find out what was going on, my blood absolutely went cold and everything went shaky. After briefly describing what he had been told by his granddaughter of a romance that had lasted for the past 5 years, I gave him a quick synopsis of the above. Things ironed out pretty quickly over the next few minutes. A week later, he apologized and told me that I shouldn't hear from her again, that he had broken the news to his family, and she was being taken in for evaluation. Later that year, I dated a girl from another city who just randomly ended up connected to me on one of the early social applications at the time. It turned out through random conversation about my similar name that she was friends with my stalker through a summer camp and had heard a lot about me. She was fairly alarmed that none of it was true, especially as I was supposed to be currently with her friend on vacation several states away. She handled things well, and we eventually broke it off for other reasons. It took me years to realize that the reason we randomly were connected on the app was no fluke, and she was likely logging into both our accounts. Over the next 15 years, I knew she was around, but other than the occasional attempt to contact me, she kept her distance, more or less. Most of the time it wasn't obvious. I would just have a suspicion that something was up. I might find a blank note under a door handle or windshield wiper. Other times, things were very suspicious, like my back door was open, and I was pretty sure that I didn't make my bed. Maybe someone stuffed some trash under my door handle or under my wiper. Also, I'm forgetful, so I can't be absolutely sure that it wasn't me leaving the door open. I moved at some point and kept to myself to an extreme level. I stopped driving the extremely recognizable car and garaged it after the rear brake lines somehow came apart in November of 2010. In 2014, she got married, and the unusual things more or less stopped happening. 2017, I worked on a job at her grandparents' house. Her grandmother somewhat recognized me but didn't recall context. Her grandfather was no longer able to. There were photos of all the grandkids except her. As happens in my line of work, she told me all about her grandkids, including her oldest one, who would be the first of her grandkids to get married in the coming year, and referenced the photo of my stalker's younger sister. And that's the big points. The most terrifying moment of all of it was when her grandfather asked me that question, because it was at that point that I realized it went deep. Next story. Update. Am I wrong for staying neutral in a situation between my son and my daughter plus wife? Original post. This all started a couple of years ago and it completely split our family apart. My son, Zane 22 male, has pretty much been estranged from us since he was 18. Adam is the son of good family friends. He and my daughter Pam 24 female begun dating around when they were 19. The problem is Adam was tormenting my son throughout school, and as you can imagine, he didn't take it very well. He was furious, however my daughter refused to budge on this. I tried to stay out of the situation, but my wife took my daughter's side, partially because we are good friends with Adam's parents, but also because she thought Zane would eventually get over it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Instead, it made a stark difference in my son's personality. He had become much more aggressive, cold, and disrespectful. He no longer listened to what me or his mother had to say, often using intimidation to get what he wanted. He would also disappear for days at a time without so much as a word. This would more or less carry on until he left for university, after which he probably spent no more than 2 weeks in total back at home, opting to stay with friends or whatever girl he was seeing at the time. He has rejected any olive branch we extend. This has completely destroyed our family, and it especially hurts my wife as they were quite close before this happened. The last time we spoke was last year before lockdown, when he called me a coward for sitting on the fence. I understand why he feels the way he does, but was I really wrong to stay neutral in this? I didn't feel like it was my place to control my daughter's dating life. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info. 1. What did you, your wife, and Adam's parents do anything about the bullying when it was going on? Did it affect your friendship in any way? 2. Did Adam ever attempt to apologize to your son? You may think you stayed neutral, but in fact, you picked your daughter's side. Unless I'm wrong, I get the impression that no one has been an advocate for your son throughout his life. 1. We didn't know about how bad it was till it was too late. Adam's parents do not like my son for separate reasons that did strain our friendship to an extent. 2. He did try to apologize after a couple of months of them being together, but that situation didn't end well. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say due to the violence rule, but I'll leave it at Adam became afraid of my son. You're the idiot. Why did you two not help your son while he was being harassed? Why be friends with the Adams parents? You aren't neutral. You took the Adams side. Yeah, I'm baffled that OP thinks he's helping anyone by staying neutral. The entire family failed the son, and now they're seeing the consequences. If I had them as parents, I too would have disowned them a long time ago. Yep, you are the idiot. So are your daughter and your wife. Especially your daughter. I would never have dated someone who'd do that to my sibling. That is a betrayal of a huge magnitude, and the fact that your wife supported her horrible actions, and you stayed out of it, was also a betrayal to him. Your wife made it clear to her son that he is less valuable to her than his sister, so she has no right to feel hurt. You refusing to take part was tantamount to taking her side. You as a family excluded your son and left him with no support. Your son had every right to feel the way he did about this situation. He rejects your olive branches because they mean nothing. And now for the update. I did not plan on making an update. It was quite clear that we were in the wrong, and we accept that. However, my son was informed of the original post by one of his cousins. He got in contact and he found it hilarious. My wife managed to convince him to meet up with us and talk. He insisted on me making an update with the takeaways from that conversation, so here goes. Regarding the post, his exact words were, "Big up to the people who showed love, and all the people who called me petty can go F themselves." He said this with the biggest smile on his face. He also found it hilarious how despite me trying my best to make him look bad, most of the replies were still ripping into me. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in how he's doing now. I'm happy to say he has outgrown his abrasiveness and has become a very confident and intelligent young man. He's very secretive about what he's doing now, but one thing he is open and proud about is the charity he runs. He happily went into detail about how he works with disadvantaged children and helps get them opportunities, particularly in sports. In regards to his sister and Adam, he seemed completely indifferent to them. He said he wasn't particularly interested in talking about two losers who no one really likes. It was a long conversation, we talked about a lot, but it seemed to end with my son letting us know that while there might be the slightest bit of contact between us, me and my wife will always be on the outside looking in on his life. While this isn't what me and my wife hoped for, we are looking at it as a chance to eventually build our relationship back up. This was the main takeaway from everything that has happened. Is it just me, or does it seem like OP still doesn't get it? Kid doesn't want much of anything to do with them, and that probably won't change. That's what happens when you alienate your child. Right, son said they'd always be on the outside looking in, and dad says there's still hope for a relationship. What? Like OP is still waiting for the son to just get over it, so they can pick up where they left off. Nowhere does OP say that he apologized to his son in the update, or took any steps to make amends. Maybe that was in the long conversation they had, but does seem odd to leave out. Edit, the OP did claim to have apologized before in the comments of the original post, but I think my point still stands about the update, an opportunity to finally show he gets it. OP and his wife are definitely the idiots. I read some of his back and forth. Apparently, Adam's parents don't like Zayn because, get this, Adam's little brother tried to harass Zayn too, but Zayn was having none of it and turned the tables. But somehow both sets of parents ignored the fact that Adam and his brother were tormenting Zayn. OP is a performative parent. There's no real love there for his child. I'm glad the son got away from them and living his own life. He did try to apologize after a couple of months of them being together, but that situation didn't end well. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say due to the violence rule, but I'll leave it at, Adam became afraid of my son. You love to see it. This brutally funny reply to the father's comment. Just out of curiosity, where did your son learn to stand up for himself? Does he have a cool uncle, grandpa, or mentor? He obviously didn't learn it from you.